Hi everyone! In this video, we will review Form I-918, Petition for U Nonimmigrant Status. But first, as a reminder, this video should not be construed as creating an attorney-client relationship. This video is made for educational purposes only. If you want legal advice about your U visa case, talk to an immigration attorney. Every immigration case is unique, so you need to make sure you're getting the best advice for you before taking action on your immigration case. The U visa is a visa for victims of certain crimes who have cooperated with law enforcement in the detection, investigation, and prosecution of those crimes. Once they have a U visa, they can then apply for lawful permanent residency and then U.S. citizenship, making the U.S. their home forever. The U visa is a wonderful thing for immigrants and all American communities because the visa encourages cooperation and builds trust between law enforcement and immigrants, which is necessary for a law-abiding and peaceful society. To apply for the U visa, you must fill out Form I-918, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But first, I'm going to give you a profile for a U visa petitioner. I'm going to pretend to be an immigrant who is applying for a U visa and who is filling out the form. What I have learned is that sometimes it is helpful to use real-life scenarios to teach people how to properly fill out the form, because the forms are confusing, even for attorneys. So for this exercise, I'm going to keep my real name, Margaret Knight, but I'm going to pretend I'm from Germany and I came to the US on a tourist visa. I had permission to stay for 6 months, but I overstayed my visa. Let's say I've been here for 1 year. I'm also divorced and I have 2 kids back in Germany. Their ages are 14 and 8. I was recently arrested in Texas for a DUI, and because I was arrested, ICE found me and they realized I was here unlawfully, so they detained me and then they put me in removal proceedings. So I have a hearing in about a couple of months. Also, recently, I was the victim of a hostage situation at a bank. These men came in and tried to rob the bank, and I was held up for like 2 days. So after the police helped us and saved us, I cooperated with the police. I told them everything I knew, and then I helped the prosecution at the trial by being a witness. So because I cooperated, they were able to build a strong case against these robbers, and they've been sentenced to prison for a long time. And now I'm going to apply for a U visa. So I'm going to use these facts to teach you more about the form and how it works. Okay, so this is the Form I-918. You can find it on the USCIS website. Right there. And then here are the instructions for Form I-918 and Supplement A if you have family members who are applying for the U visa with you. Okay, so part 1, it's just information about you, basic biographic information. So here I've written my first name here, last name here, middle name there. Other names used include maiden names, nicknames, and aliases. I have a nickname of Maggie, so I wrote that here. Okay, but if you changed your name when you got married, you would write your maiden name here. Home address, pretty straightforward. Safe mailing address. This address is for people who don't feel safe receiving mail at the place where they live. Maybe you live with someone who's abusive and you don't want them seeing your mail. You can include an alternative mailing address here. It can be a P.O. box address. It can be your attorney's address. Or it can be, someone who you trust, who's letting you use their address so that all your USCIS notices about your case will go here. Alien registration number. This is an old word in immigration law, but your A number is simply the number assigned to your immigration file. It is usually 9 digits long, but some alien numbers can be 8 digits if the number is really old. If you already have a pending immigration petition, let's say you're married to a U.S. citizen and they filed a visa application for you, you should already have an A number. If you're in removal proceedings like me, Remember, I was detained by ICE and they put me in removal proceedings, so I have an A number. You can find your A number on your court paperwork, your ICE paperwork, or on receipt notices for other immigration petitions you filed. 6, your U.S. Social Security number. If you have work authorization in the United States, you should most likely have one of these. Remember, I don't have lawful status. I overstayed my tourist visa. I do not have work authorization in the United States. So I wrote NA here, which stands for not applicable. Your USCIS online account number. You can open an online account and track requests that way. And then 8, marital status. Remember, I said I was divorced, so I checked that. Your gender. I should say, if there's one gender you associate with that's not on your birth certificate, you can pick whichever gender you identify with. If you don't identify with either one of these genders, you can write the gender you identify with out here. If you pick a gender that's not on your birth certificate, generally USCIS honors the gender that you chose. Date of birth, country of birth, and country of citizenship. Remember, I'm from Germany. Form I-94 Arrival Departure Record Number. This is a number assigned to you if you enter the United States with inspection. Like you crossed the border at a port of entry and an officer reviewed your paperwork, or you flew here on a plane. If you came to the United States unlawfully, meaning you didn't come out of port of entry, you came up between a port of entry, or someone smuggled you in, you do not have one of these numbers. This number, if you were inspected, the officer who inspected you may have given you a piece of paper with your I-94 number on it, or they may have even written it in your passport by your visa where they stamped your entry stamp. But if you lost it, you can find it online. You can go to the I-94 website. This is what it looks like. Get most recent I-94. Acknowledge and agree to the terms of service. And how you would get it is you would have to enter your travel information, your first, last name, your date of birth, your passport number, and your country of issuance, and then you would click next. And your I-94 should pop up. I will say it's an imperfect system. Sometimes it doesn't have your I-94 number. I don't know why. It may be that the CBP officer didn't put it in the system. I will also say, if you have a hard copy of your I-94, either the officer wrote it in your passport or gave you a piece of paper with the I-94 number on it, you should go with that number, because sometimes the I-94 website, mistakes are made and the wrong I-94 numbers are given to people on the website. That doesn't happen a lot, but I just wanted to let you know, if you find your paperwork but then you look online and the number's different, you're not crazy. Sometimes they make mistakes, but you should go with the hard copies given to you. Okay. All right, you fill in your passport information, travel document number. Most of you will not have a travel document number. A travel document is a special document issued to people traveling to the United States. Most of you will have passport numbers, okay? So I put NA here because I would fill out my passport information, okay? I don't have a travel document. Place and date of last entry into the United States. I'm entered in Chicago, Illinois. My last date of entry was the 1st of January, and I was only authorized to stay 6 months. So 22, look at this. Current immigration status. Not status when you entered, not prior immigration status, current immigration status. Even though I entered on a tourist visa, I have overstayed my visa. I am technically what a lot of people say, undocumented. I'm not supposed to be here. I don't have permission to be here. So my current immigration status is no lawful status, even though I have a visa and even though I entered. Okay, part 2. So questions 1 through 6 are questions about U visa eligibility. So number 1, I'm a victim of a criminal activity listed in the Immigration Nationality Act, Section 101, etc. I checked yes here. Armed, it was a hostage situation, okay? I was a victim of a hostage situation, also felonious assault. I'm going to argue that as well because one of the robbers hit me while, they were holding me hostage. And then I was also a victim of false imprisonment. So all of those crimes are crimes that make me qualified for a U visa. I talk about crimes that make you qualified for a U visa in another video on my channel. Not all crimes will make you qualified for a U visa. So it's important to know the specific crimes. Number 2, I have suffered substantial physical or mental abuse as a result of having been a victim of this criminal activity. Yes, I suffer nightmares now. I struggle with anxiety and depression. I also had bruises where they hit me and I had to go to the hospital after I was rescued. I would include all of that all the details of that in my statement for the U visa, which I also discuss in a separate video on my channel. 3, I possess information concerning the criminal activity of which I was a victim. Yes. Remember, I helped the police in their investigation, and I was also a witness at the criminal trial. I am submitting Form I-918, Supplement B, U Nonimmigrant Status certification from a certifying official. Yes, of course, you have to submit a Supplement B. If you do not submit a Supplement B, your U visa petition will be automatically denied. I also talk about the Supplement B in another video on my channel if you want to watch it and learn more about what that is. The crime of which I am a victim occurred in the United States. Yes. I am under 16 years of age. No. The reason for this question is that sometimes victims of qualifying crimes are children. And children, they can't cooperate the way an adult can, right? So sometimes they need help cooperating. Sometimes they're really scared. So if you're under 16 years of age, your parent or legal guardian can cooperate on your behalf, and you still qualify for a U visa. So that's the reason for this question. 7A, I was or am in immigration proceedings. Yes. Remember in my scenario, after I got arrested for driving under the influence, ICE found me and picked me up. And they detained me in immigration detention for a minute. And then they also put me in removal proceedings. Okay. So 7B asks about the type of immigration proceedings you were in. All proceedings now in our present day are removal proceedings since 1997. So I checked this box and I wrote current. It asks for the removal date, but I have not been ordered removed. I have an opportunity to present a case before an immigration judge and tell that immigration judge why I shouldn't be removed and actually why I should be allowed to stay. So I have that right here. So my proceedings are current. Exclusion and deportation proceedings are proceedings that occurred prior to 1997. You will only have been in exclusion or deportation proceedings, if you were in the United States like over 20 years ago and got deported or excluded over 20 years ago. So this might be applicable to some of you, but most of you know, if you're in removal proceedings right now, you are in removal proceedings. These two do not apply to you. Rescission proceedings are proceedings specific to lawful permanent residents, green card holders. So if you're not a green card holder, 7E will not apply to you either. The purpose of these proceedings is very limited. It's to decide if a person should lose their lawful permanent resident status or lose their green card for some reason. Let's say they were convicted of a very serious crime. And then judicial proceedings. I don't have an appeal pending with a judicial court about an immigration matter, so I wrote NA there, which means not applicable again. All right. Additional information about you. Provide the date of entry, place of entry, and status under which you entered the United States for each entry during the 5 years preceding the filing of this petition. So it's only asking for this information for the past 5 years. So just keep it to the 5 years. Don't go overboard. Okay, so don't include your entries from 7 years ago. Just stay within the 5-year time frame, and they have a lot of spots for this. If you are outside the United States, provide the U.S. consulate or inspection facility or a safe foreign mailing address you want notified if this petition is approved. You can still get U visa status or U Nonimmigrant Status, I should say, even if you're outside of the United States. So even if you are eventually removed or deported, or even if I'm eventually removed or deported, I can still have this petition pending because I qualify for this visa. I will have to get a waiver to actually receive the visa. I talk about the waiver in another video. You should definitely check it out. A waiver is very important for most U visa applicants. And most U visa applicants need a waiver to actually get a U visa. But, I just fill this information out of where I would want to receive the notification for my case. Here's a safe foreign address where I can put an address there. Part 3, processing information. This is basically just good moral character questions. Remember, you must always remember, just because you qualify for an immigration status doesn't mean the federal government has to give it to you. It's not really a right, it's a privilege. So if they don't like you, they don't have to give you a visa. So they ask you a ton of questions to assess your character, what sort of person you are. So that's what basically part 3 is. It's a bunch of questions. I can't go over every single one of them with you because they're so long, but I'll go over some highlights. Question 1 is very important. It's about your criminal history, which, remember, I do have. I'm not just in immigration proceedings. I have a pending criminal case because I got arrested for driving under the influence. So 1A, have you ever committed a crime or offense for which you have not been arrested? A lot of people think this question is unconstitutional. You have the right to not incriminate yourself in the United States, and there will be a lot of constitutional law attorneys and criminal defense attorneys who say, well, this question is, violates your constitutional rights. You haven't been convicted, so why would you incriminate yourself? So that's just something interesting. If you think that applies to you, talk to your attorney. I also do want to point out that it's not just crime, it's offense. It uses both of those words a lot, even in 1C, crime or offense. 1D, crime or offense. So I provide more information for these questions. For example, even if my client got a speeding ticket, I provide that information because it's so broad. Offense. It doesn't have to be a crime. It can be just a simple offense. Okay, have you ever been arrested, cited, or detained by any law enforcement officer, including the Department of Homeland Security, former Immigration and Naturalization Services, and military officers for any reason? For me, that's true. Yes, I was arrested by local law enforcement in Texas for driving under the influence, and then I was arrested by the Department of Homeland Security, more specifically ICE. Have you ever been charged with committing any crime or offense? Yes, I've been charged with driving under the influence. My criminal case is still open and pending, though. And charge just means accusation. Has a prosecutor accused you of doing a crime? So in this instance, a prosecutor is accusing me of driving under the influence, but in the United States, you have rights. So the case isn't over yet, so I'm innocent until proven guilty. So I've just been simply charged. 1D, have you ever been convicted of a crime or offense, even if the violation was subsequently expunged or pardoned? My criminal case is not yet over. The judge has not issued any sort of ruling. I haven't agreed to an agreement admitting guilt. So I checked no here because my case isn't over yet and I don't actually have a conviction. If you do have criminal trouble, your immigration attorney or your criminal defense attorney can help you answer these questions because I know sometimes it's complicated and confusing. I also want to point out that immigration has the right to ask you about expunged or pardoned criminal trouble. I know for other things, once your criminal record is expunged, no one can access it. But that's not true for immigration. Immigration always wants to know all your criminal trouble, no matter if you were pardoned or if you got it expunged. They don't care if you got it expunged. So you can't say, well, that was expunged. I don't have to tell them. Again, your criminal defense attorney may not agree with immigration asking you for that. And there may be constitutional law attorneys out there who don't think immigration should ask for that information, but they do. And, if it's not going to hurt you in the end, if it's not going to hurt your case, it may be more convenient for you to just provide that information rather than fight it. But you should, obviously, if it was a serious conviction, you should talk to your immigration attorney or criminal defense attorney more about that. 1E, have you ever been placed in an alternative sentencing or rehabilitative program like diversion, deferred prosecution, withheld adjudication, deferred adjudication? That hasn't happened for my case yet, so I checked no. Again, if you don't know if this is happening to you or not, ask your criminal attorney, and they'll be able to tell you the answer to this question. 1F, have you ever received a suspended sentence, been placed on probation, or been paroled? No, this usually happens after there's a conviction. My case is still open. I have not gotten a conviction yet, so that's no. Have you ever been in jail or prison? Yes, twice. I was in local jail after I got arrested for a DUI, and then ICE detained me for a bit, so I was in immigration detention. Have you ever been the beneficiary of a pardon, amnesty, rehabilitation, or other act of clemency or similar action? No. Exercise diplomatic immunity to avoid prosecution? No. So, they're asking about serious things that a lot of people, if someone had been granted a pardon or amnesty, or if somebody had exercised diplomatic immunity, they might think, well, I don't have to provide that information. But, USCIS believes otherwise. They think that you do. All right, so 2 is where you fill out information about what happened. So why you were arrested, cited, detained, or charged, DUI, the date that it happened, where it happened, outcome or disposition. And it gives examples, no charges filed. That's, if you got arrested, but then the prosecutor didn't end up accusing you of anything, or you were innocent and it got dismissed. So my case is still pending, so I wrote case is still pending. And then there are a lot of other spaces in case you have more crimes or offenses, like I'll point it out again, like why you were cited. So, if I had a speeding ticket, I would share that because a speeding ticket's not going to affect your immigration case. But by oversharing that information, it makes you seem more credible, in my opinion, I think. It shows that you're, being as honest as possible. So the more questions you read, the more you'll see they're trying to assess your moral character. Have you ever engaged or do you intend to engage in prostitution? Have you ever aided any alien to try to enter the United States illegally, illicitly trafficked in any controlled substance? Have you ever been involved in assassination, biological agents, chemical agents, nuclear weapons or devices? They ask if you're a part of a terrorist organization. All right. So a lot of crazy questions that most of you are going to say no to. I do want to point out question 8. Have you ever been or do you continue to be a member of the communist or other totalitarian party, except when membership was involuntary? So there's that little exception built in. A lot of, well, I guess I shouldn't say a lot of, some communist countries require that you're a member of the Communist Party, right? You don't have a choice. So the U.S. government's not going to hold it against you if you were forced to be a member of a political party to keep you and your family safe. So there's always, most of the time, there's always little exceptions like that. Have you ever been involved in torture or genocide? Limiting or denying any person's ability to exercise religious beliefs. I do want to point out question 12. Have you ever been present or nearby when any person was intentionally killed, tortured, beaten, or injured, displaced or moved from his or her residence by force, compulsion, or duress, in any way compelled or forced to engage in any kind of sexual contact or relations? Okay, read the question carefully. Have you ever been present or nearby when any person was the following? There's a difference between being the perpetrator and doing these evil acts and then just simply being there. An example, let's say you grew up in a home where there was domestic violence and you were a witness to that. So yeah, you have been present or nearby when someone was beaten or injured intentionally. So it's okay to check yes to these questions. Sometimes people get scared to check yes to the questions. They're just fearful. They think they're going to get in trouble. But if you have a good reason for why you're checking yes, or when I say good, I mean innocent. If you have an innocent reason for checking yes, then just simply provide an explanation about why you're checking yes, so the U.S. officer can understand your situation better and, issue a just ruling on your case. So you should include information about this in your declaration for a U visa, which I talk about in another video on my channel. I also want to point out 13A. Have you ever served in, been a member of, assisted in, or participated in any military unit, paramilitary unit, police unit, self-defense unit, vigilante unit, rebel group, guerrilla group, militia, or other insurgent organization? These are all very different organizations that they just lump together in this one question. But it's okay if you were a member of a military unit or a police unit, okay? In some countries in the world, it's required that everyone serve in the military. I know that's true for Israel. I think at one time that was true for Iraq. I don't know if that's still true for Iraq, but I've had Iraqi clients, men and women, who when they were younger, they had to be a part of the military and they received weapons training when they were kids. So if you have a good reason for checking yes, it's okay. Just check yes and provide an explanation. 13B, have you ever served in any prison, jail, etc.? I think that this does include prison ministries. I know that there are religious organizations out there that do prison ministry. So I would check yes to that if you're one of those people and just provide an explanation. Say, yeah, I have served in a prison. I help out there. I'm part of a Christian ministry. We do Bible classes or something. So it's okay to check yes to some of these questions. 14A again, have you ever received any type of military, paramilitary, or weapons training? Okay, this question is very broad. So if you have received weapons training, it's okay to check yes. As long as you're not hurting anyone or breaking the law, you have nothing to worry about. So just check yes and explain what you mean. Okay, 16. So this is very applicable to my scenario. Are you now in removal, exclusion, rescission, or deportation proceedings? Yes, I am. I was detained by ICE. They served me with a notice to appear, and I have an open immigration case. Yes. Have you ever had removal, exclusion, rescission, or deportation proceedings initiated against you? Yes, I have. Have you ever been removed, excluded, or deported from the United States? No, this has not happened to me. I have an opportunity to present an immigration case before a judge before he or she orders me removed. So this has not yet happened to me. My immigration case is also still pending. So the answer is no. Have you ever been ordered to be removed, excluded, or deported from the United States? Again, I haven't gotten to that point in my immigration case yet. I haven't had my final hearing where a judge decides whether I get to stay or if I have to leave. So no. And then, have you ever been denied a visa or denied admission to the United States? In my scenario, this has never happened to me. You know, I have overstayed a visa, but I was never denied a visa or admission. Those aren't the same things. Then a lot of these questions have to do with the concept of inadmissibility, which I talk about in the waiver videos. So you have to be admissible to the United States to get a U visa. And if you've done something that makes you inadmissible, you need a waiver, or forgiveness is another word I use to help make sense of what the waiver is. And I talk about that in another video. You should check it out. But a lot of these questions are flagging or screening you for reasons why you may be inadmissible to the United States. 24 is an interesting question. Have you ever left the United States to avoid being drafted into the U.S. Armed Forces or U.S. Coast Guard? A lot of people don't know this, but all male immigrants between the ages of 18 and 25 are required to register with Selective Service, which is the draft when they come to the United States. This includes undocumented immigrants too. There are some exceptions. If you're here temporarily and you're here lawfully temporarily, you don't have that requirement. But all males ages 18 to 25 who are not here on non-immigrant visas temporarily, they all are required to register for Selective Service for the draft, which I think is interesting. I didn't know that until I became an immigration attorney, and I was surprised to hear that. 29B, I think, is an interesting question. Do you now have or have you ever had a physical or mental disorder and behavior or a history of behavior that is likely to recur associated with the disorder which has posed or may pose a threat to the property, safety, or welfare of yourself or others? I do want to say, if you have a lot of arrests or convictions related to crimes related to alcohol or drugs, USCIS may argue that you have a mental disorder because they'll interpret all of your arrests and convictions related to substances as addiction. And they argue that that's a type of mental disorder. I don't know what a doctor would say about that, but I just want to let you know that's how the federal government views a lot of arrests and convictions. So it could come up. So if you do have a lot of arrests or convictions related to alcohol, even just a lot of public intoxication charges, you should talk to an immigration attorney. Because people don't see this one coming. They don't think mental disorder. They think, oh, I have a lot of arrests. They don't even consider this. So you should know about that. Part 4, information about your spouse and or children. This is about your current spouse. So only include information about your current spouse. Remember, I'm divorced, so I don't have to include my ex-spouse's information here. But I would include my kids' information. Remember, I said I had 2 kids. So I would write their names here, their date of birth, country of birth, current location, both Germany, and then their relationship, biological son. And then 26, I am petitioning for one or more qualifying family members. Yeah, I could include my sons on my application. They're both under 21, so I could check yes, and then you'll see this instruction. Note, if you answered yes, you must complete and include Supplement A for each family member. So you can find Supplement A right here. And then the instructions are here. So part 5, this is the applicant's section where the applicant signs, or the petitioner is the correct word, I guess. So you would, check this box. I can read and understand English, or, I had the help of an interpreter. 2, at my request, the preparer named in part 7 prepared this petition for me. So if you had an attorney, your attorney would fill that out. My contact information should go here. And there's my declaration attesting that all the information I have provided is true and correct. And I would sign right here. Part 6, if I used an interpreter, the interpreter would fill out their information as well. Their contact information, their address, their name, then write the language. If I needed a German interpreter, they would write German right there. And then they would sign here. And then part 7 is the preparer's information. So if you had an attorney or just someone who helped you fill it out, they would also have to fill in their information here too. And then they would sign on the last page. And then on the last page is just extra space in case you needed to provide extra information. Like let's say you had a lot of kids and all your kids couldn't fit in the section about your kids, or if you wanted to provide more information about your criminal history here, just anything you want to say, or you can just write extra stuff in a statement or attach extra pieces of paper to your petition. That's it. If you found this video helpful, please give it a like and subscribe to my channel where I provide useful tips and strategies for immigration applications. Also, if you've already applied for a U visa, your journey is not over yet. There is a lot of information you need to know while your U visa petition is pending, such as your rights and responsibilities as a U visa petitioner. Check out our ebook for U visa petitioners in the section below. It's a very detailed and understandable legal resource. It includes legal advice worth thousands of dollars for just $75. After your purchase, you will get the ebook emailed to you immediately, and you can take it with you wherever you go. All those burning questions you have, such as, what do I do if the government's taking too long to issue me BFD status, or what will happen if I divorce my spouse, or if I get married while my U visa petition is pending, or what will happen with my removal case? They're all answered in this resource, so check it out. Thanks for watching and have a great day.